Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program, the former Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General AK Chowdhary, has confirmed the report carried first in the Indian Express that there was alarm at the highest level of government in January 2012 when 2 units of the army started travelling in the direction of Delhi. Nothing eventually came of this, but at the time the Defence Minister AK Antony had slammed the report of the Indian Express, and the former Army Chief General VK Singh had referred to the report as being the fables of a sick mind. He also claimed that no clarification had been sought by the government of the strange movement of these units, while it now emerges that that is precisely what the government had sought, an explanation. While it now appears that the army columns moving towards Delhi in January 2012 were part of a training operation, there are clear indicators that the government was worried about the next move of General VK Singh, who at that stage was in an open confrontation with the government on his age controversy, for which he'd gone to the courts. On the program this evening, did the government have a genuine reason to be spooked by the move of 2 army units towards Delhi in January 2012? Joining us now, General AK Chowdhary, the former Director General of Military Operations. General Chowdhary, you were called past 11 p.m. on that day by the Defence Secretary. What did he ask you?
He just asked me as to what was this movement about, and I explained to him that these are normal mobilization and training movement which continues, and I explained to them how it does work, and then he was pretty satisfied, and after that the issue was closed the next day.
But General, you are quoted in the Indian Express as having said that the Defence Secretary has just come back from the highest seat of power, in other words, the Prime Minister's office, and that they were worried. What were they worried about?
This is simply incomprehensible. There is no question of such a thing happening. This was 2 very small units carrying out training as per their earlier plans, which continues to be done all over the country by various formation units at their levels. These are not even to be informed to us, and only when a very large formation exercise takes place is that we are informed and we clear it, and then it is, if it is close to the borders, we are supposed to inform that country as well. But this was one of the normal things which happened, so therefore it should not be construed in any other manner.
But sir, the fact that after this incident the Defence Ministry made a rule that they needed to be informed if there was any exercise, formation or unit level within the National Capital Region, isn't that an indicator that the government took this incident very seriously? You will have to ask them as to if they are worried about it. My point was only this, that if there was any doubt of any sort, since they keep talking to us on everyday basis, it could have been asked even one day earlier, and the issue would have been clarified, because I was not supposed to know this movement, because it's a very small movement of the formation and units which takes place. General, I completely understand what you're trying to say, that these exercises being conducted, that's normal. I'm asking you about the fears which the government may have had, and you are confirming that they were worried. Perhaps this fear may have been unjustified, fair enough, but you are saying that they were worried at that stage. Is that correct?
They took it seriously, it seems, because then that's why they asked me for clarification. But these are very, very normal exercises which take place, and you can't be really informing for every exercises because there are a large number of units, formations which are located in the northern portion of our country.
So do you believe that the Intelligence Bureau may have misled the government?
No, I don't know if they were worried or not, but the fact I have only said that they called me for asking me about this exercise, and that I explained to them. If you will have to ask them as to why did they call for, if it was not a normal event when they called the DGMO to ask for such clarifications.
General, do you believe the situation arose because of the fundamental distrust at that stage between the Defence Minister and the Army Chief?
No, I don't know which agency informed them. My point was only this, that in case somebody informed them, they should have, first person to check back was with us, and it would have been clarified then. It was asked from us after 24 hours when it got clarified.
So what has changed since then? Is there a cohesive system of checks and balances to ensure that army movement near the national capital region or in the national capital region is controlled, particularly if there are army units approaching Delhi?
No, this is a point which I cannot comment. This is a point which you will have to ask them. But at the functional level, we had no problems.
All right, General Chowdhary, lots of important clarifications over there, but clearly indicating to us that at that stage in January 2012, despite the denials earlier on, it's quite clear that the government was worried about the movement of large army formations towards Delhi. Well, joining me now to debate this and look at how serious this quote-unquote threat really was. What was it that really spooked the government at that stage? General Shankar Roy Chowdhary, former Army Chief, General VP Malik, former Army Chief, Nirmala Sitharaman, spokesperson of the BJP, Vandita Mishra, opinion editor of the Indian Express. The Congress party chose not to be part of this debate. They say they don't want to talk on this particular issue. Vandita, let me come to you first. At any stage of the way in which the story was being reported, or your reporters actually got hold of information, was there a fear at any stage that the army was trying to do something wrong, that these were rogue units moving in the direction of Delhi? Was the word coup ever used, or did you believe all along that, look, this was never that case at all?
Vishnu, we never used the word coup. That is not a word that figures in this story. What we reported was that there was a troop movement on the night of January 16th, which triggered unusual alarm in the highest echelons of government. And that is a story that has been absolutely vindicated today by the DGMO. So for all those people who at that time said, look at the paper, not the story, we would only like to say that this is the DGMO now talking. So you must listen to what the DGMO has to say about the story. The facts have been proven right.
General Malik, there were certain untruths at that stage. The Defence Minister never clearly said anything about this. He said that this was a figment of somebody's imagination. The former Army Chief also said that there was no clarification which had been sought on the day of this episode. Now the DGMO, who recently retired, says, no, in fact, I was called to the office of the Defence Secretary at 11 p.m. at night, and I was asked, look, what on earth is happening? What does this indicate?
Look, Vishnu, let me make 2-3 very quick points. The first one is that this incident shocked the whole country, and particularly the military fraternity, because it casts very serious aspersions on the armed forces, particularly the Indian Army, and it questioned its loyalty and fidelity, really. The second point that I want to make, a quick point that I want to make, is that it exposed the extreme fragility and the poor state of civil-military relations. That somebody could raise an issue of this nature right up to the Prime Minister, and then a panic button was pressed in the CCS meeting, which made the Defence Secretary go and question the DGMO in the middle of the night. And third quick statement is that instead of taking action against the people who caused this spook, what we have done is that we have now placed more restrictions on the army, that they will not carry out such exercises in and around Delhi, which was never the case. So instead of learning lessons, people are trying to cover the whole issue under the carpet, and they have placed more restrictions. I think, it's a very poor state of civil-military relations which needs to be taken note of and which needs to be corrected urgently.
Vandita, what about a few other points? Firstly, the Defence Ministry was never informed about the movement of, a sizable section of the Agra-based 50 Para Brigade, an entire unit of a mechanized infantry formation based in Hisar with its fighting vehicles moving towards Delhi on board, I believe, 48 transporters. That's a sizable formation. Some would say there was reason for the government to ask questions. Firstly, why wasn't the Ministry of Defence notified? Why did the units have to come so close to Delhi? Why was the Indian Air Force not informed because they often liaise with para-commandos. So was there all of these concerns at the very highest level of the government at that time?
No, Vishnu, as far as we are concerned, we do not know why these movements were not notified. Now, the DGMO in our interview today says that they did not need to be notified. Now, that may well be the case. Our story is that whatever the nature of these movements, whether they were routine or they were not routine, the point is that they set off alarm bells in the highest echelons of government. As the DGMO has confirmed today, what he calls the seat of highest power. So on January 15th, he calls back one unit. On January 16th, he is summoned by the Defence Secretary, who comes back from what he calls the seat of highest power, and he summons back another unit. On January 17th, he is asked to submit a report on this. Now, at that time, both the Defence Ministry and the Army denied that any clarification was asked for from the Army. Now, it is they who must explain now. This is, the DGMO has confirmed that a report was indeed sought. We need to know the contents of that report. We do not have the facts to say whether this troop movement was routine or was not routine. What we do have in our story, and that the DGMO has confirmed today, is that these movements, of whatever nature they were, set off alarm bells in the seat of highest power.
Yeah. Nirmala
that raises questions that need to be answered.
Nirmala Sitharaman, isn't that shocking? Because what General Chowdhary actually said today, the Prime Minister, the head of the Intelligence Bureau, the head of RAW, the Defence Secretary and others, the Prime Minister's office, worried that something unthinkable in this country, could just have been happening. Was this not a fundamental breakdown in communication between the government and its right hand, the armed forces, the army in this case?
Yes, absolutely. The last line of your observation is of critical importance. The breakdown of trust between the civilian government and the armed forces. Mind you, this country's armed forces have been patriotic, and not once in our history has there been any kind of aspersion which has been cast on them. They have been one of the best forces, and therefore the relationship, the civil-army relationship, military relationship, has always been built on trust and mutual faith. And if that has broken down or it has reached such abysmal low, it is a matter of serious concern for the country. And it is certainly a matter of serious concern, all the more because you see the way in which our neighbors, for one or the other reasons, have been conducting our affairs in such a way that we are not even able to stand up to them and speak. And if these kind of things happen between the civilian government and the defence forces, leading to a certain kind of demoralizing of the forces, it's not going to help the country at all. I think the UPA government has to come out clean on this matter, because you cannot shatter, you cannot even question the the patriotism and the commitment of the defence forces to work under the civilian elected government. I think it is really sorry state of affairs.
General Roy Chowdhary, this was a time when the former Army Chief, General Singh, was in the midst of a huge confrontation with the Defence Ministry. Is this not indicative of how that relationship had soured to a point where at the very highest level, the government seemed to have lost trust in the man they should trust the most, the Army Chief? If there was a clarification, it was a phone call away, but instead the Army Chief was not consulted. The DGMO was consulted because the government obviously didn't trust the Army Chief at that stage. What if India went to war at that stage? What a situation we would have been in this country when the Prime Minister didn't trust the man in command of one of the biggest armies on earth.
Well, Vishnu, I will, if you don't mind, I will sidestep your question for a moment to ask you another question. This is 2014, elections are due. Why has this matter surfaced at this stage? Does it have a bearing on the elections? Will it affect some of the participants adversely? That is the question we must answer, because this very bizarre episode 2 years ago has suddenly surfaced at a time when elections are due in the election year, few months from the elections. Why has this happened?
No, but sir, why don't you spell it out? What is your suspicion?
I can't. Well, this is maybe part of what do you call it? What do you call it? Black propaganda by one side against the other.
Which side against which side?
Political battle being waged. Well, I think obviously the UPA versus the NDA versus Narendra Modi.
I don't understand. I don't understand, sir. Could you explain a little bit further? Because the point you're making is very serious. That this is a political battle.
Yes.
That General Chowdhary, who has formerly the DGMO till recently, is part of a political blame game.
No. General AK Chowdhary is not part of the political blame game.
The Indian Express is? Is that what you're saying, sir?
We don't know the sympathies or the leanings of the Indian Express. It's a newspaper. What are their interests? We don't know which side they are backing. So I think General AK Chowdhary is not the important person in this case. Somebody must find out or
Vandita,
ask
I'm coming to you next.
As to why is this incident coming up now at this stage when elections are due in a few months?
Vandita, why is this report happening
Vishnu,
now?
No, this question of timing, this question of motives, this was flung at us even when we did the story 2 years ago. No, it is so ridiculous and absurd, and apart from that, it is completely besides the point. You look at our report, the facts have been proved right, none of the facts has been refuted. Now, it's like, General VK Singh today saying, calling us prostitutes. I'm sure that's a kind of a pun on prostitutes. Now, how do you even engage with this kind of criticism? You tell us, you disprove any of the facts of our report, we are willing to engage with you. Questions of timing, motives, these are completely besides the point.
Nirmala Sitharaman, do you agree with
what
what General Roy Chowdhary has to say, that there is a political game over here? The Indian Express is seen to have gone against General VK Singh, and therefore it is perhaps those opposed to VK Singh who are raising this issue against him. Is this part of a larger issue?
I will not join in that debate because it goes against the argument which I have been putting forth. We just cannot afford to have army and the defense forces of this country dragged into this kind of politics. I think they have remained very admirably above politics. They've served elected governments after governments, the civilian governments, and therefore I think all of us will have to be extremely cautious not to speak in such a way that we question anything about the defense forces. Whilst of course the civilian governments, irrespective of the party, will have to perform with a great trust in them, and without mutual trust and faith, the well-structured relationship between a civilian government under whom the defense forces have worked all the decades in free India's history, we will be putting that relationship to great risk.
Okay.
And unfortunately, what this current government has done is to have gone that low that today we are all being, discussing a matter which should not be discussed at all, because Indian armed forces have served this country, and nothing that which will demoralize the forces will have to be spoken, I would think.
General Malik, do you question the timing of this report like General Roy Chowdhary does?
Look, I am not a political person, and I don't have any political comments or the background to be able to make any comments like. I go by facts that have been brought out by General Chowdhary, the facts that were brought out in the newspaper earlier, and the statements that have been made subsequently by many people. I think we are trying to bypass the core issue of civil-military relations and trying to not to see the weaknesses in all the present. The fact is that there is no proper communication between the military leadership and the political leadership, and we are communicating with each other through the bureaucracy, through the policemen, through the IB, and that is what has caused all the problem. So when are we going to correct our system? My plea is that, look, let us learn lessons from this particular incident, and let us, if required, investigate it in confidence, in confidentiality, and then correct the system. Let us have better politico-military relations than what exists today. That is what is my plea today.